Right now, all across America, people are becoming more and more addicted to opioids. Opioids are a narcotic for pain relief, and the most common are hydrocodone, oxycodone, and methadone. You can get many of these prescriptions from your general practitioner, and most times they get inappropriately prescribed. Most doctors are actually overprescribing opioids for pain relief. A study in 2012 showed that 259 million Americans were written opioid prescriptions, which is enough to supply every American adult with a bottle.
Someone who is prescribed opioids can become dependent on them, leading to abuse, mental disorders, or combining them with other prescriptions. 1 in 4 patients prescribed opioids were in a long-term struggle with addiction formerly, and this can lead to misuse of other drugs. For example, 4 out of 5 heroin users first misused prescription painkillers. This issue isn't new, and the misuse of opioids has been increasing since the late 90s. The number of overdoses with opioids is 5 times higher in 2016 than it was in 1999. The overall overdose death rate is 4 times more likely to happen in 2018 than in 1999. In 2015, 20.5 million people who are 12 or older had a substance abuse disorder, and 2 million of those people were involved with pain relief medication. There are many more instances of inappropriate prescription of opioids leading to substance abuse in America today.
With opioid drug prescriptions, there are usually three ways that abusers of the drugs become hooked. Common methods include obtaining multiple prescriptions from different providers, taking high doses or high potency prescriptions, or from natural tendencies or previous cases of drug abuse.
Our team came up with 3 solutions to help limit the opioid addiction from prescriptions. The 3 solutions were to educate the nurses in emergency rooms about the new opioid guideline and the use of risk assessment tools by medical providers while they use interviews, medical history, and other prescriptions to calculate how much at risk a patient is for developing dependency. And finally, the regular use of urine toxicology tests to ensure the proper use of the prescribed
The
opioids.
first solution we examined was educating nurses in emergency departments of hospitals. This method had a high success rate at about 36% decrease in opioid usage among the participating emergency departments. Emergency rooms are a good place to focus on this because most people come in with pain that needs to be managed either short or long term. While the easiest way to manage this is if the medical personnel is educated to enforce other methods, this may help prevent addictions before they begin. The problem with this solution is that it just prolongs opioid prescription, but there are people who really need it for chronic pain.
The second solution we examined was using risk assessment tools, which can help determine if a person will be at risk for addiction. This is based on a person's medical history, relevant disorders that may contribute to addiction, other instances of substance abuse, recreational drug use, and alcohol misuse. These assessments don't deny a person opioid prescriptions, but require a person to be monitored. There are also flaws that the risk assessment tools may not accurately predict if the person is at risk for dependency.
The third solution we propose can involve implementing urine toxicology screenings during patients' appointments. This would allow the providers to receive real-time feedback on whether or not the patients are using their opioid prescriptions correctly. It can track whether other drugs are also being used in tampering with opioid prescriptions. This also has its flaws because patients with chronic pain have to travel regularly for urine screenings.
Our solution was to manufacture the pill so that opioids will make a person sick if taken at too high of dosages or in the wrong way. It is a method used in treating those in rehab for alcohol addiction, and it makes a person taking the high dosages of a substance have adverse effect. The patients will get any sicker than the feeling of nausea or having the euphoric effects canceled out with the new drug. There are some methods in use currently, but only for a few specific opioids. Our idea is to fund research into creating new methods of stopping the abuse of the pill.
The issue that often arises when trying to limit opioid dependency is that what the patient does with the medication cannot be directly monitored or controlled. The doctors may be extremely careful with how much they prescribe and how often, but many times patients have alternative methods to attaining more opioids. Doctors are even often blamed, with the accusers saying that they prescribe too much or too strong of a medicine. To come up with a feasible solution, we felt like we needed to focus more on the pills themselves, placing responsibility on the users. We wanted to come up with a way to limit abuse with how the pill was designed.
There are currently only a handful of opioids whose pills have been designed to limit abuse. The idea with our project is to get more funding to work on these designs. Our main idea is to combine opioids with nausea-inducing medications that will make a patient sick if they take too much at one time. The only attempt at doing this so far has been with oxycodone, and it has not been approved by the FDA yet, most likely due to ethical reasons. The only methods approved so far have been combining opioids with an antagonist, something with similar composition to Narcan that cancels out the effects of the opioid, or creating a pill that is difficult to crush and dissolve and therefore more difficult to abuse.
We could also induce vomiting if the opioids were taken at too high of a dosage. Drugs that could be tested with this project include Imatine, the active ingredient in Ipecac syrup. We feel that with every solution there are weaknesses. A weakness that really stood out to us as a group was whether or not our solution would be seen as being ethical. Our group knows that there are many prerequisites and trials the drugs have to pass before being available to the public and being administered. Also, we believe that when people begin seeing the positive results coming from this solution, this mindset will be totally altered. So though there are weaknesses, there are definitely techniques to combat them, hopefully leading to a productive and long-term solution.